Hello and welcome to another episode of the LendAPI Partner Podcast. I'm your host, Rutger van Vassen, and today with me is Brian Stacey, who's the co-founder and CEO at Decision Science. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Rutger. It's great to be here.
Let's dive right in. Tell us how your business got started.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't know, like 10 years ago, I went to work for my first finance company, a small fintech doing, trying to approach like consumer lending in a different way. And they were looking to stand up a data science team to take on the role of direct mail, right? So they had been doing some direct mail themselves and wanted to build their own targeting models, wanted to manage the process themselves. So they hired me, and we built out a team and built a couple of direct mail targeting models, and tried to think about it more globally, more in the what's the economic impact of the direct mail to the company, instead of just what's the response, can we try to figure out direct mail at the individual consumer level and say, look, if I mail this consumer, my expected value is X. And so we did that to great success, grew their direct mail channel quite a bit. Fast forward a couple of years, one of their competitors reached out to me and said, hey, we'd love you to come over and do the same thing for us. And as is so often the case, I think. And so I, as I like to tell people, I packed up and moved across the street. It was actually across town, but and so I moved over there and we did the same thing, right? So, I hired out a team and we built a couple of direct mail targeting models. And along the way, my now business partner, who was working for me running the data engineering part of the function, and I got talking, and we sort of, came to the realization that unless you were a really large company, you really couldn't afford this function in-house, right? And so, and this sort of the precipitating event was a third company trying to poach us. And we came to the conclusion that, look, if no individual company can really afford what it is that we do, what about the industry as a whole? What about debt consolidation lenders? What about mortgage refinance? What about this sort of space? Can all of the small and medium-sized companies in this space together collectively afford, a company like ours? And we said, yeah, absolutely. So let's start a company. Let's take the knowledge that we've learned over the years and turn that into a product that we can then offer to everybody in this space trying to target direct mail, trying to do it in such a way that it maximizes their profits, right? Maybe they've been, burned by somebody else in the past, and they're a little bit turned off to the whole channel. And, this way we bring the experience of not just the industry, but also knowing that the economics here are difficult. It's a very expensive channel. And so you need good returns in order to make it worth your while.
Yeah. So you didn't have to move across the street anymore. The street would come to you because you could work with multiple.
That is correct. When the third person called us and wanted us to move once again, we said, you know what? I'm sick of moving. We'll open our own, and we'll have our own office and never have to move again.
That is a great origin story. Now, what is the number one use case that you help customers solve? So obviously direct mail, but what is the very specific use case that you solve for customers?
So in general, right, in the world of this sort of, lending, the smaller lenders in debt consolidation lending and mortgage refi and auto refinance and this sort of, all interrelated space, there tend to be like three sort of lead channels, right? There's warm transfer leads, there's digital marketing that brings you leads, and there's direct mail. And the first two are fairly easy. Right. So warm transfers, you just go find one of these lead providers and you pay them for the leads and you get the leads and you're happy. Digital, I think at this point, basically everybody on the planet can do some fundamental level of digital marketing. And in fact, if you wanted to do like a social media campaign, you could upload your existing client list to Meta and they would find you what they call a lookalike list and do that. But in the land of direct mail, especially if you're doing a pre-screened offer, right, you're making a firm offer of credit and you're going to use Credit Bureau Fair Credit Reporting Act compliant data. It's a very rich data set. So there's a lot of information in there, but it's very hard to extract that information without the experience and without a large data science team backing you up.
Yep.
And so that's really the thing that we can do is, right, we can sift through millions and millions and millions of rows of data that are thousands of variables wide,
Yep.
and using our models extract who's likely to respond from that. And it makes the direct mail marketing channel go from really expensive and not very well performing to, sure, it's still really expensive, right? Because we're talking like 70 cents per piece mailed. um,
Yep.
but if you can get response rates that are 1% on a million pieces mailed, then it
Yep.
becomes a very good performing channel. And that's sort of where we slotted ourselves in is, look, if we can make direct mail really pop for everybody, and oh, by the way, we can also add in some of these digital add-on components to give you even better results,
Hmm.
then it's solving a problem that's very difficult for anyone without this sort of expertise, and my team or a team
Yep.
similar to it. It's very difficult to solve.
Yep. No, that is very, very interesting how you help them basically outsource that to you, and actually get the power of your team that probably would not be able to afford that themselves.
Yeah. and
Now,
and my server room, that's one of the things we love to talk about, is our
yep.
right, our AI stack that we've is grown so large that we've given it a name, Franklin, named
Okay.
for Ben
Yep.
Franklin, the father of the United States Postal Service. And since we
Yep.
do so much email targeting, but if unless you have a room full of servers, right, to do the math behind the whole thing, it's even harder.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes total. You have the economies of scale there that individuals
Yeah.
won't have. Now, tell me your favorite customer story.
So this we have, I've got, I mean, dozens of them, right?
Hmm.
But there's this one that comes to mind. We had a client come to us. They had been doing some direct mail. Again, like so many, right? It hadn't been working out well. They were trying to do a debt consolidation loan offer,
Yep.
and had a fairly large footprint. They were operating in like 47 states, and so the population available to them was fairly large, and they
Yep.
just couldn't seem to make it work. And they had tried other data providers, and they came to us, and with a mail piece that was sort of clunky and didn't work very well, and that was part of the issue. And I had my creative team build them a new mail piece,
Yep.
and we negotiated better pricing with the new mail house for them, and got their pricing down a little bit, right? And so right off the bat, even without performance, they're happy.
Yep.
But they came to us, and they were doing like 150,000 pieces a month of direct mail.
Hmm.
um, and we got them started with this, and plugged them into our generic off the shelf model, just and said, look, let's get this going, and we'll see how it does, and we'll figure out how to tune the model. And
Yep.
over the course of, it's about 10 months, right, we went from that 150,000 doing really good. um, and we've now reached a point where we're doing a million records a month with this client, right?
Yep.
um, they are in the process of spinning off a second brand, because purely to do additional direct mail, right? So
Wow.
they want to be able to double their sales floor and double everything. And they're like, listen, we don't
Yep.
want to burn out the whole world on this brand, so we're going to spin up a second brand. So, right, they're at that point in growth. And oh, by the way, right around the month 7 point, we had enough performance data from them, because they were sharing the results with us, that we
Yep.
were able to build a response model that was custom for them. We've layered in client conversion models. We've layered in some phone response propensity versus web response propensity to get them, right, exactly what it is that they're looking for. So their results have grown like immensely over this time frame, and they're making, they're, I mean, obviously, right? They were barely scraping by at 150,000, making the
Yep.
channel profitable for them, and now they're at a million records, making the channel profitable for them. And I think that's, that story, just the economics of growing them, is great. But what makes it really my favorite is that
Hmm.
from the very beginning, they recognized, look, if we provide decision science with the performance on this mail, right? If we
Yep.
let them know who responds, and who becomes a client of ours, they can build a better model for us.
Yep.
And this is exactly right. This is the perfect client for me, because they come to me and they say, hey, look, we recognize that your company is the expert at this thing.
Yep.
And so we want to give you the tools to use that expertise to make it better for us. And the partnership has been great as a result. I mean, we talk to these guys at least once a week, and half the time, we do these weekly phone calls with all of our clients, but we talk to these guys, and it's sort of this, more of a camaraderie around, hey, we're doing this together, which is exactly why we wanted to get into this, was to work together with our clients to improve their results.
Yeah.
Because as they grow, we grow, right? As they get better, they can do more mail, and we can do more mail for them.
Yeah, now that is a great story. A customer that not only appreciates what you do, but actually doubles down on it. That is amazing. I think that's a great place to wrap it up for today's episode. If you want to learn more about Decision Science, check out the description on the LendAPI marketplace. Thank you, Brian, for joining us today.
Thanks, Rutger. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for listening. And see you next time on another LendAPI Partner Podcast.